This simple mindset shift can completely shift your reality. It did for me a couple weeks ago. I was contemplating Neville Goddard and Joe Dispenza's work. And one thing that Neville Goddard is saying in one of his books is like, we have to start thinking and allowing ourselves to think way higher. It's not about who has the most status or the most power. It's actually about who thinks the highest. And when I heard that, I got a download. And the download is it's quite of a medieval example, but I want to share it with you because it made such a profound sense on me. And after I had this download, I was clearly able to distinguish which thoughts were not of the highest quality and which thoughts were actually of the highest quality. So the download is like this. Imagine a little village. There is a village, and in the middle of the village, there's a beautiful palace. And so you have in this village, you have a whole set of humans, all different roles, right? There is the civilians of the village. There might be some beggars. There might be shop owners. There might be a blacksmith tinging on a piece of iron. There might be a tavern. In the palace, there might be cooks and gardeners, knights and guardians. In the close to the throne room, there might be the royal family, princes, princesses, royal advisors, servants, royal servants, and of course, on the throne, the king or the queen, or the empress or the emperor. And all of these beings in this picture are just thinking different thoughts. They are occupying different thoughts. And when it comes to thinking lower or higher, it's a little bit, it is very similar to this example. If we start thinking more like a thriving queen, like a queen that is, or a king that is just absolutely ruling with great passion and great respect over their king or queendom. And they are really allowing themselves to make sure their civilization, the people that fall under their king or queendom, are are served, are well fed. Such a king or queen has a lot of different thoughts than maybe the blacksmith or the gardener, or even in the most extreme case, the beggar. So let's, for example, food, right? Let's take food as an example. The beggar, what does he think about food? He thinks that food doesn't come naturally at all. And he needs to beg. He needs to completely rely on the goodness of other humans to hope that he will be able to eat another day. And he might beg for bread or a couple of coins. And so what he thinks about food, he thinks about food like, oh my God, I hope I can have a piece of bread today. What does the king or queen thinks about food? He just thinks, he might just not even think that much about it. He might just completely know that all the best foods and all the best ingredients are served to them just when he does this. When he does this and says, I'm hungry, all of a sudden a whole table with the most beautiful dishes are being served in front of him. Completely different set of thoughts on food. And it might also be with other resources. The beggar might have the feeling that not any resource comes easy to him. And the king or queen has all the resources at their disposal, even different humans and manpower at their disposal, ready to die at the word of the king or queen. This is, of course, a very medieval example, but you see how different these two states of being and these two thoughts, these thinking minds are completely different when it comes to all of these topics. And that is the first thing that I was realizing. Oh, wow, in some areas of my life, I am still thinking like a beggar or maybe like a blacksmith or like a gardener or a cook. And I'm not allowing myself to think as high as a king or a queen. But what if I change my thoughts on that? That was the first insight, but I want to continue with this example a little bit longer, and then I would love to go into some practices and some mindset shifts that we immediately make it practical. What problems are these two people serving? If we take the extreme example again of a beggar and a king or a queen. A beggar probably only thinks about himself and makes sure that he is like can live another day, right? He doesn't care that much about where the money or the bread comes from. He's just like, I hope it comes. I hope it comes. Please let it come to me. I don't know if I can survive another day. And his whole mind can be occupied with just that. While the king or the queen, he's maybe not even thinking that much about himself. He's actually thinking about how can he serve his people the best? How can he make sure his people are well fed and safe? And these might be thousands or even millions of people, depending on the king or queendom or the emperor, the empire. He might have his mind set on giving value and safety and nourishment and well-being to thousands or even millions of people. He's solving way different problems, like way, way, way different problems. Of course, there were also kings that are very egocentric and they just want more land and more power and more things. But that's a different that's a different kind of kingdom. I'm talking about a thriving king that is collaborating. Because I was actually practicing with my community, and they said like we were doing an Akashic record session, and one of the messages came through from one of the community members saying, hey, actually everyone is the ruler of their own king or queendom. Only some choose to have a struggling kingdom, and others choose to have a welfaring kingdom. Some choose to have a fighting kingdom, and others choose to have a beautiful collaborative kingdom that is creating more peace and more collaboration and more sharing of resources between other kingdoms. And I'm very inspired, even though I don't know much about it, about King Solomon, because he was such a great king that other kings and queens came to him to consult, to let King Solomon consult them. So he was definitely in peace because other kings and queens of other countries came to him. They were allowed to just be in the throne room and in the palace. And they were just marvelous about how well it was organized, how beautiful everything was maintained. So this king definitely had an amazing kingdom under him. But he was not thinking that much about himself. Actually, he was thinking just things like, okay, please give me the wisdom and strength so I can serve the people, so that I do what I came on this earth to do, to please God and to serve the people I am here to serve. And his power and his energy completely on giving value to others and being in alignment with God. These are incredibly high thoughts. And they're not at all in any lack, or they're not at all in any survival. They're just like, give me this because I can then do this. I can then serve many. Right? So there's another big difference. The beggar thinks about himself. The king or queen thinks about many and is solving way bigger problems. And that's what we can change. So I want to share this with you because it is not at all like the ego sometimes when you hear this, like, oh my God, he's gonna think like he thinks all of a sudden he's a king or a queen now. What an egocentric person. But actually, a king or a queen, a great king or a queen, doesn't think about themselves at all. They They place themselves in a role to give a lot of value to others. So, what if we change our thoughts? What if we start to see the thoughts that are more close towards the normal folk or even the beggar? So the beggar is the most extreme survival case in this example. Normal folks are just thinking about day-to-day life. Just thinking like, oh, let me get a bread, and just like most normal folks are also thinking in a certain level. You might call it mediocre or just normal, or they're just thinking like, oh, let me get some bread, or let me get a piece of iron from the blacksmith, and let me cook for my family. And they're just thinking about these things. They're never considering serving thousands of people. But it all starts in our thinking. So not only does a king feel and know that everything is served in the greatest quality. That's a great knowing to hold inside of ourselves. Just let's feel that knowing. Everything in your life is served at the highest quality. I just know that to be true. What a frequency. And then as well, how can I serve thousands of people with what I have? How can I serve the people that I came here to serve? This is interesting. This is a very interesting thing. And this way we can think ourselves up into the throne room. We can think ourselves into the palace, into the throne room. We can shift our thoughts in some areas. Like I said, in my case, some areas were still in beggar mode. Other were just in civilization mode, and like normal village people mode. But what if all these thoughts start to go into king mode for me, or in queen mode for you, right? What starts shifting in our life? So I started making these shifts. I started thinking about my business differently. I started thinking about my relationship differently. I started thinking about my social media channels differently, because I never really, I was, my thoughts on social media, I like YouTube, but the other ones, I just were like, yeah, Facebook, I don't want to be on there. Like that's a very low thought. What if I think, oh, what if a person somehow finds my Facebook or my Instagram profile? They might be greatly inspired. They might be so inspired, and they will receive so much power inside of themselves that they will be moved to do something empowering for themselves. Wow, all of a sudden, I have a whole different view, a more king or queen view on my social media. How can I let my social media serve thousands of people? How can I let this YouTube channel serve thousands of people? How can I let my relationship be an example for thousands and millions of people? Maybe I become a different husband in so doing, in so thinking about that. Maybe you're a parent. How can I make my parenthood an example for millions of people? Woof. That's a queen thought or a king thought. And that's different than like, parenting is hard. That's just a completely, like those are two different thoughts. A king will not even be bothered if it's hard or not. It will just be thinking way bigger picture. And it might shift. You might have like thoughts way closer to kingdom or queendom and way closer to the divine, like King Solomon. Can you give me the power and the strength to do what you put me on this earth to do? To serve the people that I'm here to serve, and to please God, to please you. Oof. What if you start the day like that? Okay, that's all conceptual. Let's go into practical, because I hope you're hyped about this. If you're still watching, let's immediately shift at least one area through this video into a new area, because you might still be thinking, but how do I do that? So let's get practical. Let's dive in. So I would love for you to get two pens, ideally in different colors if you have so, otherwise one pen is enough and sufficient, and a notebook, a piece of paper, something. And let's divide that piece of paper vertically. So you have a left side and a right side divided in the middle. I want to ask you, and you can ask yourself, what has been a topic in my life that has not been flowing the way I want it to flow? Just think about something. And if there are multiple things, pick one. Pick the biggest one, the most obvious one that might solve the other problems too. And then sit with it for a little bit. And we're going to ask and write down on the left side of the paper, what are your current thoughts on that topic? What have you been thinking lately on this topic? So you might put at the top of the paper on the left side, current thoughts. And then you write down all the things that you have been thinking. And you might stop the video and take some time. Just take at least a couple minutes to really think about this. The more you're able to write down, the more you will be able to shift. So yeah, please do it now. You can stop the video, and whenever you are ready, let's press play again, and then we will fill up the right side of the paper. Beautiful. Now let's not judge anything. You're not a wrong person by thinking these thoughts. Everything is actually very normal. But I want you to start thinking like a king or a queen in these areas. So on the right side, at the top of the right side, we write down, what would a king/queen think about this? And now we're going to put ourselves into this queen or king mode. And we're going to allow ourselves to really realize, like, hey, I am the king or the queen over my own life. So what if we start really thinking like a king or a queen on this topic? And it might be vastly different. So to recap, or to remind you before you, maybe you already started, perfect. But I want to remind you, in a king, all the resources he just knows are met. He has no problem finding resources. And at the same time, he's thinking about bigger pictures. And he's able to see, how can I not only help myself, but help thousands and millions of others with this? So based on these two elements, what on the topic that you currently are contemplating, what are these things? What are these qualities? What would a king or queen think? Okay. Assuming you now have a full left and right side of your paper, I would love for you to put down your pen and let's look at your paper and allow yourself to contemplate your current thoughts, but also the new thoughts, the king or queen thoughts. And just ask your mind and your body and your team of light that is here to help you. Can you help me transition my thoughts in this area to the thoughts of a king or a queen, to thoughts of royal, to more higher thoughts? Can I transform my thoughts? Can you help me transform my thoughts? And you might feel some movement immediately happening because our system is super responsive. It always amazes me, but whenever I do this, we just forget to ask these kind of things. Our system is super listening, super responsive. So let this process happening. Let's look at the left and say and see, probably these thoughts are not helping at all. And let's move to the right and adopt a little bit more of that, invite that into your life. If you're medical, you might even imagine that neuron connections will start shifting in your favor here and become more royal. Your mind will become more royal. You're inviting more high thoughts into you. And the more higher your thoughts, the more closer to the divine and the more closer to empowerment your thoughts are, the more empowering and divine life you will live. Like I said, we're all kings and queens of our own life. So why don't we start owning that role? Not for the sake of ourselves, but for the thousands and millions of people we are able to help. So allow yourself to be in this process a little longer until you truly start feeling the shift. And let me know in the comments how this feels. How was this? In whatever way you feel like sharing. You don't have to share the whole exercise, but just whatever you felt. If you feel the shift, if you feel a difference between your current thoughts and these more higher thoughts, let me know. I wish you all to live in a beautiful palace, in a beautiful heaven on earth, with incredible gardens and all your resources met. So I hope this helps. And if you're watching this before August, the first 8 days of August, I will provide, together with the Akashic Records, a whole set of abundance activations. You can sign up in the link below, and the replays will be available if you watch this later than August 2025 or before August 2025. The replays will be also available in one of the links below. So you will be able to catch it and to receive these activations. If this was resonating with you, then that event is going to be 100% resonating with you. It's a gift from me and the Akashic Records. I like to give this experience. Last year it was 1 day. This year it's gonna be 8 days. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to have you in that event if that resonates, and otherwise I see you in one of the next videos. I send you so much love. I see you in the throne room very soon. Literally, like when I started doing this, my life shifted. My life absolutely shifted. And yeah, I just started to see reality morphing and things coming to me and clients coming to me and people that want to work with me. And I was like, whoa, what starts happening? And I started to get invitations, and plans that I had started to all of a sudden get paid. I just said like, oh, I have this plan, and somebody just gave me money to do that plan. I was like, okay, I wanted to buy it myself, but I don't have to do it anymore. Things start to really shift, like crazy shift. And it's just been 2 weeks. So allow yourself to do this. It's absolutely powerful what we have been talking about in this video. So looking forward to meet you very soon, dear fellow queen and king of your king or queendom. This was so fun to make. I see you in the next one. Bye bye. Much love.